President Biden with COVID again, testing positive on Saturday after testing negative for 4 days prior. Even before the second case of COVID, worries heightened over the commander-in-chief's mental capacity and ability to lead. Here's Dr. Ben Carson on this program last week, calling Biden's condition a national security risk.
There's no question, he's in that age range that puts him at an increased risk, and he has underlying problems as well. So it is a serious issue. The good thing, of course, is he has access to the best medical care in the world at Walter Reed. So I suspect he will get through it, but I hope and pray, like many others, that he will recover from that. But that still leaves the problems with his ability to communicate appropriately, not to make gaffes, and to create confidence. One of the things a leader is supposed to do is to create confidence in those who are following him. And we have exactly the opposite of that. And he's a laughing stock around the world. This is not good for America.
And this week, Senator Chuck Schumer will try to amass more support for a new version of Biden's Build Back Better agenda after getting the support of West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin to spend additional hundreds of billions of dollars on Biden's climate change priority while also raising taxes. Joining me right now is a member of Senate leadership. He is a Wyoming Senator John Barrasso. Senator, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Great to be with you, Maria. Thank you.
So before we get into this new spending and tax package, let me get your thoughts as a doctor. You are a orthopedic surgeon as well as a leader in the Senate. Your thoughts on this reinfection with COVID that President Biden is facing now?
Well, it's certainly a concern. We want the president to fully recover, but we do know that people who have been reinfected have higher health risks going forward, health risks of long-term COVID and health risks in terms of heart, lungs, even neurologic issues and bigger problems with fatigue. So we hope that the president doesn't fall into that category. We want him to recover fully.
Absolutely. We are praying for that, for sure. Let me get your take on the agenda, Senator. Last week, your colleague on the left, Joe Manchin, agreed with Senator Chuck Schumer to spend hundreds of billions of dollars more and raise taxes to pay for it. Were you blindsided by this?
Well, I know Joe has been working on this, but let's take a look at what happened last week. We saw economic numbers continue to come out. We saw the president's poll numbers continue to fall. He's at historic levels. He's pushing for the life alert button because he's fallen and he can't get up. And the problem with what Manchin and the Democrats are proposing here is the American public is having a hard time keeping up. They just can't do it. You can't afford a full tank of gas. You can't afford a week's worth of groceries. And what Manchin and the Democrats and the president are now proposing are the two cardinal sins that you don't want to do when the economy is in such a dire situation. Number one is they want to raise taxes in the middle of a recession. Now, I know Joe Biden says it's not a recession, but if you Google recession, it's a recession. 2/3 of the American people believe we're in a recession. They're living it. The other is they want to do massive government spending. They have a 725-page bill, and it's over $1 billion a page. At the time when we're at 40-year high inflation, this is going to make inflation worse.
Yeah, I want to get your take on this $80 billion to double the number of IRS agents as well. But you're mentioning the $369 billion on energy and climate efforts. Only in Washington can you come out with more hundreds of billions of dollars in spending and call it an Inflation Reduction Act, Senator. We know how inflation got stoked. We have the inflation timeline right here. Consumer prices are up 9.1% in the last reading, and they were 1.4% when Joe Biden walked into the Oval Office. How is it possible that your colleagues are voting for something that will likely make inflation worse? Do you believe inflation gets worse as a result of this?
I believe inflation gets worse. The experts who are looking at it believe that the inflation will get worse. And look, this is false advertising by the Democrats. This is the last big wish, a dying wish of a party that knows they're going to get shellacked come November. They have all the spending and the taxes in this that they've been trying to get. There's no guarantee that it's going to get passed, and we can talk about that in a second. But the things that are in this, look, this is the parade of horribles from last year. They are hiring 86,000 additional IRS agents. That's not just to go after a couple of big companies. They're coming after families, farmers, small businesses. And what do they want to use the money for? They're going after energy producers so they can give subsidies and pay people to buy electric vehicles. These are going to go to rich people. This is going to make the pain at the pump worse. It's going to drive up inflation, and it's going to hurt the economy even more, Maria.
Yeah, it's just incredible. Does it pass? I know that you've got a week back at work before you go on recess in the Senate. What's happening this upcoming week, and how will Senator Sinema take on this?
Well, you make the important point here that Senator Sinema hasn't. I know she felt blindsided by this, and she has a spine of steel. She's not going to easily be twisted. The interesting thing is that Joe Manchin has bought into this. There are things included in this bill that last year he called shell games and smoke and mirrors and accounting gimmicks. So I'm not sure what Chuck Schumer promised him, but I think he's going to regret making this decision to sign on to this. Every Republican is against it because we know it is going to burn a deeper hole into the wallets and the savings accounts of American people. In terms of will this pass, they need all 50 Democrats on board and in the room, Maria. And what we know is that due to COVID and due to surgery with some of the Democrat members, they haven't had 50 senators show up for work in well over a month. So this is far from done.
Well, I mean, I think you make a good point, but if it doesn't pass, is it just pure luck? I mean, let's face it, Senator, your colleagues continue to disappoint on many levels. Did the Republicans get duped again? That's what Kim Strassel wrote in the Wall Street Journal this week. I know you saw that op-ed, but they introduced this new version of Build Back Better under a new name just hours after they get the CHIPS bill passed. You did not vote for the CHIPS bill. What is going on with your colleagues handing the Democrats a win when everywhere you look, there is another blow up, when you have a wide open border and they refuse to acknowledge it? What's wrong with your colleagues?
Well, number one is, I did not vote for that bill. I thought it spent too much money and focused on a specific industry. But no, I never trusted Chuck Schumer. I knew he was going to continue to try to put together some reckless tax and spending bill to the final moment of the final day of the fiscal year. So I knew he wasn't going to stop. No Republican should ever believe Chuck Schumer. With regard to the bill that passed, there are Republicans and Democrats who know we have a specific problem with China. I say never again can we be dependent on China for medicines, for materials, for important minerals. Never again. They're trying to get at a problem. I just think it didn't provide what we needed to do to prevent China from stealing our trade secrets. I've been on the conference committee for that bill. The votes were there. I'm not surprised it passed. What I am surprised is that Joe Manchin has signed on to Chuck Schumer's bill. I'm not surprised that Chuck Schumer will continue to tell people anything that it will help him go very, very liberal with his agenda.
Well, Senator, I guess what I'm asking you is, shouldn't the Republicans be doing better at this point? Look everywhere, whether it's inflation, whether it's wide open border, foreign policy disasters like Afghanistan, China, he refuses to call an adversary, only a competitor. And look at the congressional generic ballot and the congressional vote preference that we have here. Democrat 41%, Republican 44%. Shouldn't the gap be wider? Shouldn't Republicans be winning? And shouldn't it be an assumption that the Republicans take over not just the House, but the Senate as well? Why these numbers, in your view?
Well, I'm very optimistic about the elections in November. It's still 100 days away. Maria, this is going to be a rejection election. The American people are going to reject the Democrats and Joe Biden because of the things that you just mentioned. Crushing inflation, chaos at the border, crime in the cities. This is a reason to eliminate and to remove and to defeat all of the Democrats who are on the ticket. We need to take the majorities so we can stop this reckless agenda, radical agenda that the Democrats have. We need to get back to the job of building the economy, not building the government, which is what the Democrats want to do. We take over the Senate.
Real quick
I'll be chairman of the Energy Committee, and we will. Go ahead.
What? Go ahead. No, you please
we take
continue.
over the Senate.
So
I'll be chairman of the Energy Committee. I'll be chairman of the Energy Committee, and we will put on Joe Biden's desk bills that will actually bring down the cost of energy by drilling and getting the permits to do the infrastructure. We'll hold this administration accountable.
Real quick, I want to get your take on why your colleagues voted for the CHIPS Act. Was it because the liberal universities want more money? And how do they explain that this administration wants every accounting in everybody's account? They want to know anytime you take $600 out of your account or have a transaction of $600. Wasn't that the proposal in the initial Build Back Better?
Well, there are a couple of things there. Look, I have great concerns with China, and this is the new battlefield of the 21st century. It's not just weaponry, it's information. As China tries to be the military, the economic, and the technological superpower of the world, we can't stop. We have to continue to work to stop them from allowing that to happen. That's what our focus needs to be, and we have members that have been working to do that. I think this bill didn't accomplish it. The other issue you raised are the taxes. These
go ahead.
I mean, in terms of their Build Back Better, I mean, they're coming after everybody with raising taxes. That's who they're going after, families and farmers, everyone, in an effort to pay for liberal things that I think are going to make the economy worse. It's going to make inflation worse, deepen a recession. These guys look like what they're doing, the Democrats are trying to do, is get to double-digit inflation. We want to get inflation down. Their proposals actually seem to raise it.
Senator, thank you very much for being here and for your leadership. Senator John Barrasso.